Greetings and salutations. Happy Tuesday as I'm recording this. Thanks for hanging out with me. Still working on a cough, or the cough is working on me. We'll see how that goes. I'm going to try to catch myself muting it if I cough, but apologies in advance if you hear me hacking up phlegm. Today we are here to look at Fallen, a quote-unquote Baroque and grim fantasy tabletop RPG from Perplexing Ruins. Hey, Krister, how are you today? I don't think I have any notes or anything. As I said, April, I've got family here for the month, so my streaming schedule might be off. We're playing it by ear, but day one, obviously I'm here, so far so good. We'll see how that works. Other than that, I don't think I have anything to tell you folks. So let's just get down to it. Hopefully I can get through this in the hour. I'm going to, as usual, I'm going to try to pick out the parts I feel like are the most interest to us. But of course, if you are here and you see something that is interest to you that I seem to brush aside or skip over, feel free to call it out to my attention. I got a bunch of new subscribers over the month of March, so thanks for the new folks for joining in. And just to kind of reset, in case you happen to be watching this now or later and you don't know how these things work, I go into these things totally blind. Sometimes folks have sent things to me to look at. Other times I have reached out to people to get stuff to look at. I think in this case I reached out to Perplexing Ruins, and they were nice enough to send this my way. I just go through and look at it, and to me this is analogous. If you remember back in the day, you ever went to your local friendly gaming shop with maybe one or more of your friends, and you guys would just sit there for however long and just flip through books and just check things out, and then go over to one of your friends and say, oh, look at this cool thing, or look at this cool thing, or oh my gosh, I can't believe this or that. I kind of try to bring that same experience of you're in the game shop, you see this on the shelf, you're interested, you're curious, but you don't know what you're going to do with it or how you're going to do with it, so just give it a read. So that's where I come from in terms of what these are about. As for Fallen, let's just read straight from the text. Fallen sits somewhere in the historical precedent of the early modern period, generally speaking, Euro-American 1600 to 1850. It is influenced by the clash of superstition and knowledge, of folklore and science, and of faith and independence. I believe the book allows for historical play in these periods and associated settings. However, Fallen is fictional. It aspires to catch a tone and mood more than historical fidelity. Muddy stagecoach routes, cider-serving taverns, dark forests, large estates, alchemy, demons, witchcraft, canals, card parlors, and strange lights in the old bell tower. These rules will be considered overly robust by some and severely lacking by others. This line is a difficult one to navigate. I encourage using the rules to facilitate and guide, but play, narrative, discussion, and tone should be the guiding star. I tried to make something that tapped into what I perceive as an underrepresented period. There are medieval vestiges and omens of the future. There are enough tools in this book to allow the solo player to embark on their own journey. Between the gradations of success and narrative-forward mechanics, the game is also more forgiving than some others. Also, it is not a combat-heavy game, but one of mystery and discovery. The many generators herein can be enough to prompt one's imagination into a fulfilling session of play. The layout of the text is presented in a learn to play as you learn to make fashion. Learn to play as you, I think that's a typo, as you learn to make fashion. Character creation is integrated into the rules explanation. And then for acknowledgments, this game takes its greatest inspiration from Cairn and Ironsworn. These two excellent games are foundational to my gaming thought. Solitary Defilement, Perilous Wilds, Trophy Dark, Bastards, Rogueland, Maze Rats, Hero's Journey, and Blood in the Roots have all left imprints somewhere in this text. Krister says, oh, solo play is always welcome. Yeah, that wasn't even an aspect of this I had thought about. But yeah, apparently either they're saying sort of explicitly they're going to have talk about solo play, or that they feel that just implicit in the way things work, you could play this by yourself. I am going to more or less just kind of breeze through the abilities. Here we have 4: strength, focus, agility, and will. I think if you've played any kind of role-playing games, those should all feel fairly familiar to you. Fallen uses a rank system for all characters. 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 20 represented on a character sheet by the relevant die. When a character sustains a wound, reduce rank, which is, I guess, going to be abbreviated with a capital R, 1 step. So, for example, if you were at 6, you would drop down to 4. When a character sustains harm, reduce pips of health equal to sustained harm until next rank is reached. We have an example here. A rank 6 PC takes 3 harm, means remove 3 pips from their rank, leaving them with 3 pips of health remaining in the current rank. Should the PC suffer 3 or more additional harm, reduce pips until rank 4. New characters begin at rank 6. At 0, you must have success on a will test. If you miss, you die. If you succeed, return to rank 4 and gain an injury. Recover to maximum rank after a safe and comfortable night with sustenance. See injuries for more detail. Okay. All right, cool. We've got a luck. Your modifier d6s are also your luck dice. You may choose to roll any of these dice along with your 2d6 to increase your result. They must be chosen and rolled along with the 2d6. Had they told us that we're rolling 2d6s? Did I miss that somewhere? Let's see. Oh, yeah, I probably should have. Uh-oh, here comes one of those coughs. Hold on. Where's that mute button? Hooey. All right, so maybe I need to backtrack up to abilities, just in terms of it's telling us what we're going to be rolling. You may have 4 abilities with which to modify your actions. Assign modifiers either 0, +1, +2, or +3, once to each to an ability of your choice, represented by placing 1d6 on your character sheet turned to the correct number. These dice also function as your luck. Alternatively, after assigning 0, you can roll d3 to randomly assign the remaining modifiers. I'm not sure what they mean by these dice also function as your luck. Oh, I guess you actually, it's kind of like you're building up a dice pool. Would that be it, except for maybe 0? Let's see. Your modifier d6s are also your luck dice. You may choose to roll any of these dice along with your 2d6 to increase your result. They must be chosen and rolled along with the 2d6. However, once burned, quote unquote, for the day, the chosen dice is no longer in play, and its related modifier is now +0. Luck replenishes each new day. Okay, so it seems like you're going to lay out dice with those attributes, and then you can grab some of those dice and use it to supplement the kind of tests you're making. But once you use them, they are spent for a day. That's kind of an interesting way to do it. And I guess we're seeing from this, because they didn't say specifically, we're going to be rolling 2D. This is kind of a 2d6 based challenge system. How to play. Play as rogues or highwaymen, protectors of the nobility, or revolutionaries. Wander as lone solvers of mystery and fighters of the horrific. The spinner, I guess, aka the game master, dungeon master, referee, will present a tale, an atmosphere, a situation. Rogues narrate their reaction. The spinner decides what obstacles are in the way. Some tables may decide to share the duties of spinner, each person thus having an opportunity to build the world and present its reality. Consider the options. If the situation can be handled without negative consequences, you succeed. If the consequences are questionable, state what you want to accomplish and roll the dice. Roll 2d6 plus the relevant ability score or skill level. Yeah, they probably should have put that above luck. I'm just going to say that. It'd be nice to know this before they start delving into modifying those 2d6s. If the situation is irregularly against you, roll 3d6 and take the 2 lowest results. If advantaged from gear, position, or relevant skill, roll 3d6 and take the 2 highest results. So basically, they have an advantage and disadvantage that we're going to have as well. And then as far as the die results on a 10 or higher, success, all goes to plan. On a 7 to 9, you've got a complication. On a 6 or less, you get a miss. And of course, something else may happen. See, violence. Combat happens in rounds. Check initiative each round. You're going to roll a d6. So I guess maybe the spinner will roll the d6 is really, or I guess PCs could, but just it's just one die roll. On a 1 to 3, the enemies go first. On a 4 to 6, the party goes first. And they only have 2 ranges. PCs are either close or not. Close, they're in melee. If not, they're at range. And we have, it looks like an active defense system of some kind where we're rolling dice plus your agility to evade. Is that a choice or do you have to? Not sure. The fiction of play should be considered. A knife, when used while being stealthy, may slay a stronger foe. Numbers may be guides, but Fallen is not a war game. It can be played entirely in narrative with occasional dice rolling. And then you can flee It's going to test your will. You're on a success. You move a safe distance away. If engaged in close combat, take 1 harm. Basically, it seems like a little bit that flee. It's basically like an attack of opportunity. Only you just roll, and if you succeed, you've kind of been able to slip out without getting tagged. If not, you get tagged. And this is some tea for the working man. Inventory, you can hold 10 items, only 2 weapons and 2 armor. That's simple enough. We've got some tables here now. We got some motivations. Debt, honor, duty, wealth, revenge, zeal. All classic stuff. Names. Just a mix. It looks like there's a mix of male and female names. So I suppose if you want a male name, you can just take this table and add 10. So it looks like from 11 to 20 or more or less. Male names, though I suppose Francis go either way. And then 1 to 10 are female names. And we have some surnames, all good. Consumable items using a pool system. Looks like they're using some kind of usage die for depletion of gear. On equipment, you get some stuff and you can roll some gear, which I'm just going to breeze through because, is anyone interested in seeing yet another table of gear? Christopher says, based on these 2 ranges, sounds like combat is more suitable for Theater of the Mind than miniature play. Yeah, it seems like it, which is fine by me in a lot of these things. And assuming they don't have spells with kind of crazy specific radii and ranges and things, that just makes sense. You might say that there might be one where it's just beyond, right? So you have, you're close, you're not close, which is what they have. But then maybe one that's beyond, if you wanted to say there's somebody who's too far away to hit with an arrow or with a good shot or from a gun, but you're still visible. I don't know. Oh boy, these coughs. Come on, hold on a second. Gotta get rid of this. Terrence is here. Hey, Terrence says, my character for this would be called Crazy J. Townsend, a deranged nutmeg addict who's convinced he's from the future reenacting history for YouTube. I think people, that'll be a good, I was gonna say, people are doing that now. Yeah, I could see that. It reminds me, what was that, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, when they have this part where the documentarians show up? And doesn't somebody kill one of them? And then the police come eventually? But we can see on the equipment list, we do have venison jerky. Venison jerky. As far as weapons, we've got just knives. You get your flintlock pistols, pole arms. We also have muskets, rifles, rapiers, and a smith's hammer. I wonder why specifically a smith's hammer as just opposed to a hammer. And what they're calling armor, they're calling, or we would normally call armor, they're calling protection. I like that one of the options is an unfashionable helmet. It'll protect you, but you don't look good. Goodness. Of course I start coughing when the stream starts. That's just how things work. And we get some random items. Firearms are fairly common and very deadly. Most encounters with human NPCs will not continue beyond the first success roll when firearms are involved. Firearms cannot be fired during close combat unless you are able to secure some kind of advantage, such as stunning the opponent long enough to reload, running away and successfully hiding, having an ally successfully toss you an already loaded pistol, etc. You are firing from a surprising position, add +1 to your violence roll. Ooh, violence. If it's raining, you subtract 1 for your violence roll. Reloading takes a round. I think that's actually pretty quick for most things. Just 1 round, so 6 to 10 seconds. That seems like I would actually go longer than that, but that's me being cruel. Oh, you cruel, fun-killing GM. That's me. All right, we get some horses. Fear. When you come face to face with something horrifying for the first time, you must test your will. On a miss, you gain 1 fear token. For every fear token you have, you must reduce any test result by that much. That's an interesting way to do fear. That's very interesting. And then you have these places of peace. Resting in one of these spots for a few hours removes all your fear tokens. And they have some suggestion of the kind of a table of possible peaceful places. These are cathedrals, babbling brooks, comfy inns, solitary caves, a copse of healthy trees in the anonymous bustle of a city. I probably would not put a solitary cave in a place of peace. That's a place you need to hide out because you need to. I definitely like the idea of an inn I guess depending on your theme here, for me, I kind of feel like maybe my my Tolkien inspired The Wonders of Nature is good, where I feel like a copse of healthy trees and a babbling brook would work. I just don't think the bustle of a city just by itself would be, but maybe you could also put in a tavern. I think it would be also cool I don't want to say a missed opportunity, but pick some places, have each character on character creation create a list of their place of peace, and they could put whatever they want, but once they put it, that's it. And then if they find that place or a place, that match that description, so obviously they shouldn't be super specific and say like the attic in my grandma's house, but something, then that can be the place where they can go rest. And you could really have some fun with them trying to find these different spots to kind of get their sugar back once they've been damaged too much. And then we also have a matching opposing place of disturbance. And some of them there are crossovers. So cathedrals are there, agitated bustle of the city, deep forests, etc. And Krister commenting that they don't understand cathedrals are both places of peace and places of disturbance. I suppose it could be, and they haven't mentioned yet about how they're handling religions here if there's multiple, but if I was going to port this into your fantasy, you're kind of straight up sort of D&D type fantasy, you might say that it could be matching an alignment type thing. If you're in a holy place that has the same alignment as you or is for your deity, then that would work. And if it's one of an opposing deity, then that wouldn't work, would be one way to do it. I'm not sure here why it would be, but I think they're trying to tap into that, maybe in a little bit of that gothic sense, is the same places that can seem calm and peaceful can also be disturbing and spooky. Depends on whether you're a Christian or atheist, I guess. Yeah, I guess. Or, I mean, this is kind of, well, I mean, we're talking mid 1600s to the 19th century. So yeah, I don't know if there's going to have much. Are we going to have much things like I don't know, Gnostic sects and things running around, or demon worshiping? I suppose if it's a cathedral to demons, that might not work. But yeah, they don't have there's no detail given. So I guess we just have to imagine the cathedrals that would be peaceful versus the cathedrals that would be disturbing. We have a table of injuries and some broken bones. That itself might be also a table. So we have permanent scars. You can be shocked. You can get a broken bone. You can have a gaping wound. Oh, here we go. And here comes another cough. We've got dueling. Blades and boxing. A blade and fist duel happens in rounds. We've got some, I'm not going to go through all the rules, but it's cool to have a specific, in that, I feel like this is that, I always think of Highlander when he duels the guy in colonial America, I guess, and he's insulted the man's wife, and the Highlander has to duel the guy, and the guy just keeps stabbing him, and the Highlander just keeps getting up. That was a great scene. Always makes me laugh. Let's see. Intentions, and then you have certain rounds. My mic's arm doesn't want to stay up. All right. Each round consists of both duelists roll d6 plus a d4 plus their strength or half their rank. Whoever has the highest result strikes their opponent, reducing their opponent's life points by 1. On a tie, both opponents are struck. When a duelist's life points are reduced to 0, they've lost a duel. And how many life? I guess just your life points are... I guess your life points, you just get that through character generation. Firearm duels happen in a single round. Opposing characters simultaneously going to roll a d4 and a d6. Oh, I see. Going back to the other one, you get your life points by rolling a d4 and adding your will. So you don't have a set life points, which is interesting. It's going to be variable at the time. So you could get lucky or unlucky. And I guess it's just how healthy you happen to be, how sturdy, how ready you are to take wounds in that moment. Interesting that you're rolling a d6 plus a d4. I wonder what kind of distribution they were trying to get to with that, as opposed to just using 2d6, which they're using for everything else. So as far as firearms go, in the case of firearms, you're rolling the d4 and the d6. The lower d4 result is the first shot fired. If the related d6 exceeds the opposing d4, the shot strikes. If equal or lower, the shot misses. To conclude the round, compare the second shooter's D6 to the first shooter's D4 following the same process. Oh boy, that seems a little bit complicated. So you can roll a D4 and a D6. You want the D6 to beat the D4. So that's good for you. That shot strikes. And then you compare. You flip-flop. I guess let's see the example. Purple duels black. Black rolls a 1 and a 3. Purple rolls a 4 and a 4. Black fires first because their 1 is lower. But their shot misses. Or, no, wait, sorry. Black rolls a 1 and a 3. Wait, no, it shouldn't black. Black rolled a 4 and a 3. I mean, a 1 and a 3. Shouldn't the 3 is greater than the 1, so shouldn't that mean it hits? But according to the example, black fires first, but their shot misses. Now purple shot is 4 against. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Oh, I think you're comparing them against the opposing D4. I see. So 3 versus 4 misses. 4 versus 1 hits. Okay. Boy, that's a little bit. The idea of the opposing stuff is sort of interesting, but I suppose, who knows how often this is supposed to come up. Really good challenge with the duels all the time, but I think this is one of those things where the system has some interesting stuff about it, but then I wonder if this is going to be something that when it comes up in the game, however often it comes up, we're going to have to go in the book and find the dueling rules, because who's going to remember D6 plus D4 and this? I'd almost rather just go 2D6 and then do some comparison between that to decide what happens. I mean, and I almost think also with firearms, you're kind of shooting at the same time or thereabouts. So does it matter who goes first and last? Whereas if you're doing knife and thing, it kind of, I feel like the initiative or who wins by that split second is more meaningful than the shot, but maybe not. I don't know. I'm sure. I'm sure I feel like I can see how it works, but I don't know. Maybe a little bit complicated for me. Skills. Distribute 5 points among whatever skills you choose. Skill levels max out at 4. We've got creature mind. Natural creatures sense something in you which makes them curious. And we got looks like, I guess if you're rolling this, we have what they're giving us, I guess what success, what a complication, what a miss means. So success would mean you can reduce a creature's hostility. So you could do that. I'm dating myself here, but Crocodile Dundee to that water buffalo doing the little. If you haven't seen Crocodile Dundee, watch it. Find the clip on YouTube. He kind of mind melds with this water buffalo or ox or something and moves it off the side of the road. If there's a complication, the GM, this aka the spinner, will decide whether the creature gets more hostile or something else happens. And miss, you either the creature flees or the creature becomes aggressive. And if you use it to try to make a companion. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. No. If you have a companion, I guess you can have an animal companion. You can kind of nudge it to do stuff and maybe it will. Now, nothing says, knowing nothing. And that would make sense from your name to nothing, that you're knowing nothing. Knowing nothing about firearm duels from this time, the duel rules don't make me feel like I'm dueling. I mean, I guess it's an interesting way to put it, right? And it's something to keep in mind with all these mechanics is, are the mechanics to the extent, of course, that you're rolling dice, you're not really shooting people, or even doing something like throwing Nerf at each other on the count of 3 to simulate dueling. I think I get what they're going at, because if you think of cinematically, when two people duel, the one person gets a shot out first, and almost always, 99% of the time, but then, of course, those occasions, that the one person gets hit before they can fire, so their shot goes wide or whatever. So whoever fires first is generally going to get it. I could see how they're going. I guess I can see how they're going for that cinematic dueling thing. Does rolling the D4 and the D6, does that really give you the sense of we're dueling? I don't know, but it might feel like it in the moment. It might feel like in the moment if you were, eyes across from the GM, and you got your D4 and your D6, and you're rolling it. And that moment, you might get that similar tension. I'm not sure. I mean, look, I guess, and the other part of it is, well, how detailed do you want to get into the dueling? Do we want to get with, like, we're aiming? Do you want to say, like, I'm aiming for a body shot, or do I say, instead of saying that I'm trying to, here you just kind of say, well, I'm doing to the death, or I'm doing honorable. But really, do I go for center mass? Do I go for a leg or an arm because I'm trying to do the whole, I'm Alexander Hamilton and I don't want to kill this person, so I'm going to try to shoot off. Does the other person just try to shoot off? Do they try to shoot to kill? You can get into a lot of it. I guess it depends, and we don't know from these rules, is how often is this supposed to come up? If it's coming up all the time, then maybe we want something more in-depth to really get in the sense of making these decisions at dawn that really could be life or death, because really you roll those dice, and if the person is just to the death, then you're just dead. That's it, right? Full stop. You're rolling those 2 dice, and someone is dead. So maybe we want that more detail. Maybe it's something only going to come up once in the blue moon, but they wanted to have it because when you're going to be walking around wearing, velvet gloves, you're going to want to take one off your hand and slap somebody with it and say, see you at dawn. I'm not sure. I'd be curious to know. I haven't run into tons of dueling mechanics, so it'd be interesting to put it up against some other ones to see what they're doing to maybe give you that more idea. But I think ultimately you're rolling dice for life, so it's going to have some of that tension. But it's more interesting that these dueling, that they change the way the dice work. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why using D4 and D6 as opposed to trying to figure out something with 2D6 just doesn't work better. And I know here also, it doesn't seem like it has nothing to do with your ranks and anything. It seems like with these firearm duels, you're just rolling D4 and D6. If you're rank 20 and the other person's rank 4, you're still just rolling a 4 and a 6, which is kind of interesting. Anybody can take anybody down. Definitely beware the villager that comes up and slaps you and tells you to meet you at dawn. But maybe we want to reward somebody for being high level or not, or high rank or not. I'm not sure. Like I said, we don't get a sense of if this is something core that's going to be coming up every session, theoretically, or something that is thematic but going to be rare. All right, so the other skills we've got are crafting, diplomacy, exploration. Or we have more? Yep, we got more. We got healing, incantation. This is for spells. Investigation, lore, mending, basically fixing stuff that's broken, stealth, survival, and venturing. Interesting that survival and venture are different. Survival is foraging, tracking wild game, or making camp, while venturing is undertaking hazardous journeys. So the travel part is venturing. The kind of foraging, hunting, and camping is survival, which I kind of like. Because it just gets two people have sort of two things. Instead of just having, oh, I'm a venturer, so I get just bonuses and everything. Well, the venture is good for the travel part, but when you're trying to do these other things, you could be a survivalist, which means you could have survivalists that don't necessarily venture far. They don't go on wild journeys, but they're excellent hunters, trackers, campers. Something called Suffer Fate. You roll a d10, and you could potentially waste resources. You get a new complication. You could lose something valuable. Someone or someone else could get thrown into danger. A new adversary could be introduced, or you could be shaken and take a fear token. You get to magique, incantations. Magic in the world of Fallen is earthen, elemental, and incantatory. It is rooted in both the dark regions of soil and cavern and the lighter spheres of dawn and breeze. Magic is powered by the godly and the demonic. Incantations are dangerous, mercurial, and unpredictable, but can offer immense advantages to players. Magic takes the form of an incantation skill test, completed in the same manner as any other test. For each skill level used to advance your incantation skill, mark a dark or light incantation die up to a combined maximum of 4. This creates your dice pool. A narratively represents your access to the raw energy that circulates within and through everything. Roll the dice pool, choose incantations that correspond to the results according to the adjacent table. A 3 on a light die grants access to ward, web, or bone. Combine results to create stranger effects. Paint the desired effects with words. Use the incantation skill as many times a day as you have dice remaining in your pool. And there's an asterisk there, which is For the example, which I'll get to in a second. So successes, you spend any available dice from your pool. Complication, you can spend 1 available die from your pool. Miss, you take a fear token and you roll a curse. Damage incantations, you deal the incantation result in harm. Healing incantations, you recover the incantation result in health. Pamphlets. What is a pamphlet? I guess this is like a spell scroll. Or let's go to the example first before we get into pamphlets. The example is you have 1 dark skill point and 3 light skill points for a total of 4 available incantations. If you use 1 dark die and 1 light die in tandem for battle, you have a total of 2 or more light incantations to use in the day. Right, so we've got what? I'm not okay. Hold on. We've got rolling the dice. Why does dark say 1, 3, 5? Is that your? And then light says 2, 4, and 6. Are those your ranks? A roll of 3 on the light die grants access to ward, web, and bone. I'm not sure what the 2, 4, and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I guess you could roll. I'm not sure what those numbers at the top are for. But basically you roll and that's what you can kind of get to do. So I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure out how this would work. All right, so I'm trying to think of their example. You use a dark die and you light die in tandem in battle. So I would roll on the dark die, I'd roll the light die to see what I have in that battle. So if I rolled a 3 and a 3, I'd get ward, web, bone, decay, darkness, silence. But then when I'm actually going to cast the spell, is that the same as casting it? Or is that me casting it and then I figure out? I really could use a full example of what they're trying to do. The idea is really kind of cool to me. Like, ooh, I can take these words. So if I got web and bone, can I make that into some kind of sentence? Your bones are webbed or something, which would mean you can't move, you're stuck. With that, ooh, that would be really cool. If I got shroud and mind, ooh, could I shroud your mind? If I got illuminate, what could I do? Do I get to combine them? So if I have decay, darkness, and silence, and ward, web, and bone, could I do bone decay? It seems like, oh, these are really cool, but I don't have an idea, and I don't understand if we're rolling to come up with what we can do, but then we also have to roll to see if it works. Which part? When are we pulling the stuff out of our pool? I'm not certain. I'm not certain, but it seems really intriguing. I just feel like I need that example. Bone silence, says Brian Smith. Hey, Brian. Yeah, bone silence indeed. Silence them bones. We do get here are the curses we could get. You and those nearby suffer a blast of D4 harm. You could be restrained. You could get dark tidings. You could become rift sick. You could become blighted. Or you could become seared, which is your lips begin burning with extreme dryness and crackling. But it doesn't actually seem to do any damage. I would have at least do 1 point of damage. Or something else, because that is 6 supposed to be the best case scenario or the worst case scenario. Because if it's the worst case scenario, it doesn't have much of a... I mean, you have to really play up the narrative effects because there isn't anything really mechanically that it's doing to you. Oh, Brian Smith says it makes skeletons healthy, or nothing suggests it cures arthritis. Those are both good ones. Could do both. I mean, do skeletons get arthritis? Maybe they would benefit from both versions of that spell. All right, so we have the advancement rules here. Characters begin at rank 6. They advance when they acquire 5 suitable experiences to warrant gaining a rank. You go from 6 to 8 to 10 to 12. They're basically milestones. They could be defeating a major enemy, making a major discovery, learning something about or share with a companion, witness the demise of a companion, offer meaningful assistance to an NPC, bring a significant treasure to a safe location. I'm not a huge milestone fan. I would probably make this very player-facing and tell the players, okay, we're going to have to deal with, or we'll have to figure out what a major enemy is, or maybe I'd have to set the scenes of things and then let them say, like, we've heard there's a troll in the area. Say they're rank 6. They're just starting out. Okay, if you guys can defeat the troll, if you track down, defeat this troll that is rumored to be in the area, or determine the mystery of the troll, I'll give it to you. Something like that. Because if you've been on my channel, you know me, you know how I make a living, and I don't make a living with milestones, but they're fine. People do like them, and I get that they're easy. Upon gaining a new rank, a player may choose one option below. Increase an ability modifier, distribute 2 skill points, add a narrative aspect based on previous sessions. Gain advantage when using an aspect during a test. Aspects are positive narrative traits characters may have picked up while adventuring. Some examples: ambitious, cautious, clever, courageous, gritty, loyal, merciful, quick, sneaky, thoughtful, or willful. This is basically an adjective you can give yourself. I like that. I like that idea of you think of something you did maybe in the past. For example, you found and defeated the troll and you did something clever to outwit the troll in some way. So you say, you know what, I'm going to have clever. And the next time something comes up and it's kind of something that would seem to be clever, then you can get an extra nudge. Brian Smith says, tired of people's teeth clattering in the cold? Cast Bone Silence. Exactly. Get this salve, Bone Silence salve, available at all your alchemical stores. Now we're on to the folding. Those traversing the world of Fallen are touched, tarnished, and folded into the fabric of earthen markings. To exist in the planes where darkness and light are born is often met with melancholy. But those able to persevere become tarnished. An odor, a covering, a molding that marks the spirit of one's growth. I don't know what that means exactly, but it sounds cool. I notice here we have not seen anything about humans, humanoids, demi-humans, anything like that. So I would imagine that by default we were thinking we're all kind of humans, but I haven't seen anything yet. Upon each advancement, a character gains 1 tarnish point. These points are used to grant permanent enhancement to equipment or items. Okay, so this is that concept of basically having your items gain levels with you. To create your own enhancements, the effect should be earthy, cosmic, philosophic. Not philosophical. The items enhanced thus should have taken place in the adventures, having had the opportunity to become tarnished and folded within the fabric of the connected universe. The degree of its power should be reflected in an appropriate cost. We have some examples here. Space of Shadows. You may call on the item to engulf yourself in a shadowy sphere 12 feet in diameter, giving a +2 bonus on defense roll to all enclosed and 1 free action. Last 2 rounds of violence while in the same location. You take 1 fear token for each use, and that costs 2 tarnish points. Another option might be Bone Grafted. Not necessarily a silent Bone Grafted, but just your regular old loud Bone Grafted. A tarnished melee weapon causes +1 harm to targets. Tarnished armor increases armor value by +1. While using this item, you have a 50% chance to heal 1 health loss by melee damage instantly once per day. I would just maybe say just have it do it once. Is having a 50% to do it once per day, it's just an extra die roll, right? You're gonna be unlucky and you're gonna keep rolling, you're gonna keep calling even, and you keep going roll odd all day long, and it's gonna feel like you're gonna want to throw your dice through the wall, or you're gonna be getting into multiple things. I know they say this isn't a combat heavy game, so maybe they want to just tone it down. But I'll just say the first time you get hit the first time you get hit in a given day, it's 1 less damage, right? To kind of just make it a little bit easier peasier. Temptation to Despair costs 3. Bone Grafted costs 4 tarnish points. Temptation to Despair costs 3 tarnish points. And that one gives the power. Any target without a fear rating you touch with the item momentarily loses their constitution, yielding their turn or space for you to act in any way. I don't know what a fear rating is, but basically you can touch people and they will spend a turn despairing. So you can do what you will. Kind of cool. And they have more. I'm not going to go through all these, but we got Dust Touched, Forestborn, Blight Touched, Light Ward, Illusory Will, Constellated in Silver, and I presume that we are, we are encouraged to make up our own. Travel. Fallen uses a waypoint travel system where the map is marked with location points and connected with travel routes, aka point crawl. Whether through wilderness or established paths, travel is handled by the venture skill. It is not necessarily for the spinner, aka the GM, to label each journey, nor is it always necessary to use the waypoint formula from the table below. These are flavor guides and suggested distance only. Travel will happen based on the venture result and should be narratively constructed between rogues and spinners, aka the players and the GM. Rolling may not even be needed. Present information, challenges, and encounters, be they social or violent, to build the world and action together. Seems very similar to sort of the thing that we've seen, I guess, in a few games lately. I think of the One Ring as the exemplar for this kind of point crawl system, but you're going to be, you basically have, getting to the place isn't in doubt in terms of getting lost. It's not a hex crawl. We're not really exploring in that way, but of course, terrain and everything can have effects on the challenges, the distances, whatnot. We have a table here of journey type waypoints / spaces. You could have, I guess these are basically how difficult they are. So you go from disquieting to perilous to foreboding to portentous. Krister says there's a show on Netflix called Penny Dreadful. If that showed an official RPG, it would probably be this one. Seems like the same vibe. Oh yeah, definitely. I watched the first couple seasons of Penny Dreadful. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I think Penny Dreadful maybe a little bit later than this in terms of the time frame, but in terms of the kind of vibe, I'm totally there with you. I think if you just rolled back Penny Dreadful to being pre, I don't know what the Civil War in the U.S. and in Europe would be, what, the 1848 revolutions kind of area, just kind of move it before that. So we're kind of in the colonial, post-colonial, from the colonial era to the Renaissance to the post-colonial era, kind of. And that would be good. But yeah, I think in terms of, you've got firearms, but you still have swords and things are still of use. There's definitely kind of dark powers, but there's also kind of Christianity. They didn't have, I don't remember Penny Dreadful, they was really more of an urban, Penny Dreadful was kind of more of the urban version of this, as opposed, you weren't really going to from village to village. But yeah, I totally see that. Also something like what's his name? I forget, Solomon Kane kind of thing. Those sorts of adventures. Exploration of locales and points of interest functions much the same way as overland travel. When a new location is encountered, the spinner, aka GM, may want to determine the number of spaces it contains. Use the following tables to randomly ascertain theme, nature, and other details. Each time the party progresses through a locale, follow the procedures described in the exploration skill. When all spaces have been found, the site is considered fully explored. So this is kind of a cool idea. I could definitely see pulling this out. I have to think about this, because as I've been doing lots of hexcrawl videos of late, this seems really interesting. So that you have a locale, and each locale has a number of, or each area maybe has a number of, or they say locale and spaces. And then you kind of have to, if you found all the spaces, then you've been through the whole place. Brian Smith says, your comment about point crawls got me thinking you should do a vid on point crawls versus hex crawls. End of unsolicited content request. And Krister seconded that. All right, I'll put it on my list. I feel like I did cover that a little bit in some of the other videos, but I'm happy to do something in-depth. Maybe we'll stream it. That'll be class 3. I'll stream it. All right, so we got exploration. So we have now, that's kind of a neat way. I do like this idea of doing the spaces and locales. Now we're on to locations and adventures. Locations can be as simple or complex as serves your needs and the narrative. And they're generally constructed with nodes and points. If it is to be a, quote, dungeon or, quote, ruin, assign a number of spaces. Otherwise, just assign on a theme, its nature, or perhaps something hidden within. After the location is known, allow the exploration roles to dictate its evolution. Using the node system allows for narrative forward play. If you want to throw traps, secret passages, perhaps wandering monsters, go for it, add dressing. If writing an adventure for Fallen, it should be coded in atmosphere and narrative. If it includes points of exploration, nodes / waypoints, consider writing a small table for each node that can randomly add flavor, encounters, and context. Your location may have a specific Suffer Fate table with results that should be analogous to the Suffer Fate table in the core book. PCs will use exploration skill to test at each point to find and progress. What will they find if they use lore, investigate, explore? And now we get on to generators. And this generators, they are specifically calling this out for either solo players or here they say referee as opposed to spinner. I'll just call that a typo that maybe at some point they were calling spinners, referees, and then they changed the name and forgot to hit it here. It happens. So we got stuff like, I guess these are things you could find in the wild: statues, cairns, outposts, cemeteries, ponds, cities. You randomly encounter a city in the wild. I've been there, but that's kind of that seems to me that maybe you'd see a city coming. I don't know. I suppose it depends, but it could be kind of cool. What was that? A Shangri-La type thing? A city appears out of the mist. Might be neat. I could see using that. And then if you're in a city, you get a list of random locations you can run into: cemeteries, clock towers, windmills, factories, prisons, asylums. I don't usually think of windmills in the city. I actually think of windmills as being more in the wild, or at least in the kind of hamlet slash village kind of thing. But I could be wrong. I don't have a great sense of what the heck is in an actual Renaissance colonial city. We need themes for locations. We can roll another table. Gives us stuff like haunted, sacred, ancient, enchanted, desolate, corrupted, decomposed, infested, guarded, or sacrificial. Whoa, we got a lot. We got some more stuff. Hold on a second while I cough. And I can't even take solace in the fact that it's COVID or something because I tested negative. So not COVID, just a nagging cough. Okay, so I just wanted to see if we get any more. So here, this was the theme. Are the themes? These are not themes. I guess just for nature. I guess things we could find in nature. Ruins, barrows. I guess nature and we have here. We had in the wild and nature, I guess, are separate, which is interesting. But it's just more stuff we could find. Then we have some room types. The one thing I think this could have is you got space here. You got some space. Give me a little text. Maybe divide these up so we could tell, because they're just all kind of, they're cool, but they're just sort of running into each other, and they're not. They could do with a little bit more organization, because I could see that if I was coming here and I was trying to find a specific generator, it'd be nice to go like, here's outdoor stuff, here's indoor stuff. Instead, we go from kind of into the wild, into the city, then back to nature, then into room types, then the details, then over to taverns. I'm sure they're organized because just the tables and their lengths, but man. Christopher says that they tested negative 2 days in a row, but on the third day tested positive. Still coughing along with you. Yeah, I've had this cough for a while, like a week plus, and I tested negative before. I probably will do some more tests just in case, because like you said, you mentioned these at-home tests are not 100%. So yeah, there's still a chance, but I haven't really gone anywhere or done anything. Not that means I couldn't get it, but the other thing about it is I don't feel bad in any way. I don't feel sick. I don't feel out of breath. I didn't lose my sense of taste or smell. Like I just literally have this kind of phlegmy cough, which is, of course, is right on target for what this stream is all about. So, hey, thanks for tuning in to Phlegmy Cough Talk. Here with me, your host, Todd from Hexed Press. All right, back to these tables. Got a whole bunch of tables for NPCs. Position, social position, personality, motives. I suppose if they're wanderers. I see here again. I mean, I love all these tables, but just position and wanderers. Like, am I supposed to roll on both? So they could be a farmer that's a relic merchant. Not sure how they're. Christopher says I got the cough from somewhere. Yeah, I've had a cold, Christopher. That's what I've had for a couple 10 days or so. My wife had it, and then my daughter and I caught it from my wife, and yeah. So that's theoretically, as far as we know, allegedly, it's from this cold. And it's just the last part. Like I mentioned the other week where I'd been suffering with a cold all week. This is kind of still from that. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully it's just a cold. Interaction, that's cool. They want to sell you something. They want to warn you of dark tidings. They're going to the next village. I like it. It could be all COVID. Yeah. I mean, we've all tested negative everywhere along the way. My daughter in school, my wife, and me. But yeah, who knows? It could still be. We do have hirelings. We haven't been given any hireling mechanics, but we can get some hirelings here. I like that these are kind of a little bit different. You can get an escaped criminal, you get a folklorist, a shepherd, a scholar, a cleric, a mercenary, a highway rogue, or an alchemist. We can roll up some rivals. We can roll some reputations. We can roll up some quirks. And as far as operations, Again, I just wish we were just given a little bit of what they intend with these, but we have actions and motivations. So we could roll. I guess this is for, I suppose we would need this as the player. So if we had an NPC, we're going to find out what they're trying to do. They're trying to steal. And then we would use the tables, create a random NPC to figure out from, say, from whom they're trying to steal. And then here we have another table for what they're trying to steal for. Say, for example, out of desperation. And then where is this all happening? We've got some locations. And then I'm not sure what the what is. Is this what is happening? Maybe this is the what, and then this is the why. No, but some of these, yeah, these are really good for your sort of inspiration, but I feel like in a moment it would give me more questions. So like what? I get merciless tyrant. I don't know how to tie that in to these other things. So someone is, but maybe, reports of a mysterious creature. I don't know. It would be really, this is where I just feel like, give me a sentence, give me something, give me something. We have some esoterica. These are broad lists of words for spark tables. Cool. So we just get some nouns, whole bunch of nouns, 100 to be exact, some adjectives, some verbs. That's cool. So I really like these tables. Like I said, I love tables, and people are always asking and looking for where can I find more tables. Well, here's a bunch of tables. Like I said, my only thing I would say as just a knock, or it would just be a critique, perhaps, is just to give me a little bit of background, give me a sentence or two explaining what the use of it is, or if it's something, give me an example of how you, the author. Granted, I could use these tables however I want, but some of these, it would be nice to know, here's how I envision putting these tables together. Sarah says, I'm assuming from the pic you could buy hirelings off the rack like in a department store. Maybe so. And then Brian says, I vote to remove all images of people being hung by the neck to people trapped in suspended cages. Feels 100% more fantasy world to me. Was there something? Did I just pass over? Oh, look at that. Yeah. Yeah, in the cage definitely seems more fantasy. But remember, we're going for like a later Renaissance kind of vibe. So they're just hanging folk like, pirates and stuff. Oh, here we got artifacts, trinkets, and treasures. Some more tables. We got jewelry, vessels, weapons, coins, and stones. I guess like gems. Could be armor. Could get a potion. Could get a pamphlet with some words on it. Could be miscellaneous stuff like a bone, a bag, or a candle. And then some elixirs, some nice potions. Like fungal root grease. Got some problems? Try some fungal root grease. It's only one application. Smeared protective gear receives +1 armor value for half a day. Step GD down 1 step. I don't remember what GD is, but smear your protective gear with fungal root grease. Now we get some beasts in the bestiary. So it looks like we have a few statistics here for beasts. Rank, just I guess how powerful they are. Armor for damage reduction, and then fear, which I like, is this is the psychic impact an entity may have on characters. Much like rank, fear can be dialed up and down for scenario context. The lower the fear, the closer to character expectations of reality. Reduced from PC will test upon first encounter. On a miss, PC takes 1 fear token. So they encounter the stuff that is. I like the concept of this, that it's the stuff that is more fearful, the stuff that is further from your expectations of reality. Brian Smith says, fungal root grease, bone salve, the system's got it all. Absolutely. And then we also have a menace rating. Some creatures have a menace rating, which functions like a form of experience. By banishing a dark and dangerous foe from a populated area, or per a contract, the party will increase their renown equal to the creature's menace. This can be used to influence social interactions like diplomacy tests or better rates on goods, weapons, or lodging. It is up to players to decide the impact of this mechanic. That's interesting. I would say maybe up to everybody, but I don't think we've seen them talk about, unless I blew by it, renown. So they kind of just throw that in there. Some notes on lore and basically creating your own monsters. Now we get into I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Assy giant, ace giant, Esh giant, ash giant maybe, born from the ash of dead fires. These creatures are sometimes witnessed growing from the aftermath of tragic village fires and plague pits when they engage in extreme violence towards one another. It is speculated they appear in civilization upon reaching maturation, where they seek the point of their birth. Why did you bring me, Father? Why did you make me live? You can also have blood sack moths. Needs more leech squeezins, says Terrence. Perhaps. Bog trolls, bone collectors, dead knights, demon boars. I like these images, are very cool. Be wary, be wary. The bone man brings no tidings a merry. You don't want to meet the bone man. Galder, giant flay spiders, griglings, giant rats, headless rider and demon steed, magicians, mobs, murderous nobles. Ooh, that's a creepy picture. Discourse, direction matter to thee. Discourse, direction belong to me. I like these little quotes on some of these. Hath seen the rider? I crossed Potter's Bridge last dawn. Whispers spoken in dark halls. They very much have a tarot card kind of thing. You could really, I wonder if they'd be they would make something where they have these on cards with the picture and the image and the text on one side and the stats on the other one, because it just seems perfect. I feel like you could just print these out, cut them, and use them that way. Hail, hail, we flame the pyre. Move, move, we stoke the fire. A Knuckleavy, Treslia, Regant, classic rogue. Oh, fear, for the rotted horsemen appear. Pain drinks deep of the blackened moon. An Upior, a werewolf. And then we have some tables. Hey, this could be cool. Make your own creature. Start off with the base. You roll D10. Add one feature. Perhaps add a second feature. And then add an origin. So you can have a wolf. Frost wolf that is eyeless. And it is from nightmares. And it is cunning and seeks escape. And looks like we have a poem. I got time. I can read the poem. The wind was strong enough. The stars were right. Pine needles whisk angrily in the night, brushing and raking together. A carriage passes in the darkness. A madcap casket on wheels rocking. The old inn, an island solitary in the yawning black, marked by a broken sign slapping against its post. Two thin dogs awaken inside with a start near a chipped hearth filled with smoldering cinders. Beneath the rough-hewn planks, a shoulder presses up from under the cellar. Sherry and cider, loosed from the upturned barrels, swirl together on the stone floor, dripping down onto the figure pulling itself from the pit. It shambles, moist and unsteady, like some cosmic toddler. 7 or 8 steps to the stair. The dog barks weakly, then whine in retreat. They wet themselves, one against the other, as something which was forgotten passes to the larder, then the parlor, come to reckon with civilization, bearing green flame eyes. Green Flame. That was by Jim Parkin. It looks like we're at the end of the book. Well, look at that. This is basically an hour right on the button. PerplexingRuins.com. Ooh, I like this with the red eyes and the otherwise just black and white. Almost looks like a, what do they call it, where you carve it on ink, whatever. Yes. What is this? This is an ink whatever. Terrence says, Headless Rider and Demon Steed is my favorite buddy cop movie. You could make that in something. I could see someone doing that. All right, well, this was Fallen, a Baroque and grim fantasy tabletop RPG. I like it. It's got a lot of tables. If you like tables, certainly got a lot of stuff for doing solo play if you want. I do feel like it gives off the vibe, but not so much mechanically. The mechanics are all fine, but I feel like in the kind of definitely in the presentation and the types of things that they're expressing, that it kind of wants to be in that, yeah, that kind of Renaissance. It's definitely moving. I feel like there's a similar vibe to Lamentations of the Flame Princess in some of the terms, kind of get there. This is definitely leaning towards more of a narrative story game kind of aspect as opposed to a sandboxy kind of classic D&D type of game. But I think it says that up front, and it kind of follows through with the way it's working things out. I don't know. I mean, the grim part, certainly the creatures and things feel grim, and there's a lot of, I don't know, maybe I'm wondering if we do have injuries, because I always think when I think of grim, I think of these things where my conception of something that's grim in terms of a role playing game to me, and who knows, a woodcut, yes, woodcut. Brian Smith is exactly what I was trying to refer to before with the art type. When I think of grim, I think of this where you're just getting worn down. I don't know quite if you're getting. It's hard for me to kind of, because the mechanics, the way it's doing things is a little bit different. It's, if this was like an OSR, oh, this is using a BX as an engine, I'd have a better idea of, oh, look, here are your hit points, and oh, I can see how this is kind of wearing you down. The grim, I think, is going to be a lot of it is really left up to you as the GM and your players to really bring through in the narrative. I think having the kind of injury scars and wounds and these things that are marking you, I think will come across. I like the things. I think the other things that kind of give it that grimness. I like the fear. I like the menace. I like some of that stuff. I can't say precisely how all these things will work together when you actually play it. It seems easy enough. I like the 2d6 resolution. The duels is interesting. I appreciate them putting rules in there because I think it's definitely thematic. I'm not sure if I think that going from the 2d6 to this other d4 plus d6 die type thing makes sense, because it ends up just making this kind of one-off space where you're doing everything you duel and you just go to another system. Some people might say that and say, well, that makes sense because when you're dueling, you are kind of going off and doing something completely separate, right? This very ritualistic experience that is totally unlike everything else you're doing, which I get, but just trying to figure out how it works, it's a little bit interesting. And I think the concept that in that firearms duel, unless I miss something, how strong you are, what level you are, what rank you are in this case, doesn't have any effect on how good you are at dueling is an interesting choice. It really is just down to those two dice and then go. On the one hand, I like that there's a danger there that you can't ever get too haughty and think, well, I'm ranked 20, nothing can take me down, but blam. But at the same time, I think part of what we want in all these games is as we get stronger, we're more powerful, and that's everything else you do get that way, but then dueling kind of is an exception. And maybe that's intentional for the kind of vibe that they want, because yeah, in real life, you could be a sharpshooter and you just have one off day and someone else is lucky and you could go down. But pretty interesting. Brian Smith says, seems like a great fit to run a Sleepy Hollow type game. Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of those kind of games, like Sleepy Hollow, or games, concepts like Sleepy Hollow or Solomon Kane, or any of those kinds of, yeah, like fables of colonial America's weird things, right? Windmills that have mist and the wheels just slowly turning, that kind of creepiness to it, going through Puritan towns and people who are just peeping in their doorways and sort of strange stories, things howling in the night and you're not sure what they are. Highwaymen, and yeah, gibbets by the side of the road with the bodies hanging and swaying. I think you could easily adapt this also if you want to do something more pirates and seaborne stuff. There's no rules in here for ships and things like that, but I could easily just add a few things in here because we're not really getting into trying to be simulationist mechanically with running pirate ships and stuff. I can easily see putting this in something like a fantasy sort of version of the Caribbean or whatever, spice trading, or you could really just situate this kind of anywhere. Though this definitely, I feel like the vibe is kind of sort of the colonial America or sort of that sort of Europe in that kind of colonial era. Brian Smith says Puritans, oil lamps, farmlands, leafless trees, feeling it. Yep, absolutely. Brian Smith says they like the mini game aspect of the duel and the legit danger baked in. Yeah, I don't know. I do too. I just wonder if it's worth. I always try to wonder when you're bringing in a whole new mechanic that you're only using for one thing, right? Is it worth it? And we just haven't played it. This is from reading it. So I read it and it seems awkward to me, but I can also see it is going to be very exciting. Mano y mano, either in a face to face or virtually or in person, right? Rolling those dice. And then you just, especially in person, it's very easy. You're just going to match up. Oh, this D4 with this D6, your D4 with their D6, and then see what happens. And yeah, one person's just dead. So it really got this all or nothing gamble. We just don't have an idea, and maybe it's just table to table, game to game. How often we think that's going to come up, and it's just something that I think the way it's set up, it's just unless it's coming up all the time, we're just going to have to find that rule every time and look it up, as opposed to just figuring out a way to work it out with the normal mechanics. But I do appreciate that they have specifically in there because it is so thematic. It's what we think of all the times: duels at dawn, and all that stuff, right? Pistols at dawn, all that stuff. All right, well, it is up on TTRPG. Thanks to Perplexing Ruins for shooting this off to me and allowing me to take a look at it. There's links to it on drive-through if you dug it. I'm not sure how much it is. I want to say that last I looked at it earlier this morning, I think it's $10. I want to say it's also work in progress. Not that it's like beta, but there is a note on drive-through that they are still kind of working on it. I don't have a print version. If I did, I would print out. I think they did. Also, there's a note in drive-through that print versions are going to be coming soon at a later date, maybe once they get to what they feel like is the final. So I'm not sure. Some of the stuff you might look a couple months from now and it may be tweaked. I don't know. It's already up for sale, so I'm guessing it's probably 95 to 99% done, whatever. But no one's told me anything. I'm just guessing. It's out there if you like it. The links are in the show notes. I will take into account the requests in terms of point crawl versus hex crawl. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow, sometime either later this week or maybe it might be next week. I got this adventure in from GUI Cube, which is a 5th edition adventure, and I haven't done any 5th edition stuff in quite a while, but I'd heard really good things about them through the company. I'd read about them when they did something at Genghis Khan that was very well received, and I'd heard some raves about their work, so I thought I want to take a look at it. Kind of the key thing that drew me to them was that people have said about them, and I think this is what they kind of say about themselves. They've really written up this adventure to be trying to make it as easy as possible for GMs to run. I mean, look, you think, oh my gosh, isn't that every adventure ever written supposed to be easy for GMs to run? Yes, of course. But of course, as we also know, oftentimes this falls short. But apparently, from what I've heard from the marketing materials for GUI Cube, and then also what I've heard people say from GUI Cube is they may really have found a format that works very well, the way they've organized things, whatever. I haven't looked at it as usual with these things where I'm going into a blind, but I've got kind of their first adventure in this series, and I'm not sure how many days it will take to go through it or how I'm going to do it, but that's coming up. Look for that soon. Brian Smith says, appreciate the overview on this one. Hopefully there will be a color of ambient moonlight reflecting off brass candle holder table when it is complete. Perhaps. I can tell you that that the author got some chuckles from some of the stuff on the chat from that particular video. So they watched it and they appreciated all our chatter on the various hues of luminances of eyes and in the rooms. You can check out that video. That was the read along that I did just before this one, so look it up. That's all I've got for today, folks. Have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, everybody, and I'll talk to you later.